All right, welcome everyone. We're back with another fantastic interview, and we're here today with Andrew Hellmich. So, hi Andrew, how are you?
Hi guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So Andrew comes to us from Australia, so it was really fun to coordinate this interview because we're on totally two different time zones, and we're just so fortunate to have him on the show with us today. We're going to have him talk a little bit more about himself and his expertise, but wanted to first share with everyone a little bit more about him. He actually he's a professional photographer, but he also hosts the photography business podcast, Photo Biz X. And what that is an interview-based weekly podcast where he has photographers and other experts from all around the world talking about their business, revealing their marketing secrets and everything like that. So what's really interesting is that Andrew has interviewed other photographers. So in addition to his own experience, he gets to share all the other secrets that he's heard from photographers from all over the world. So we're so lucky to have him here today to share that with all of us.
Yeah.
So Andrew, why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself, your photography business, your expertise, and maybe something a little bit about yourself that not many people know about with your business.
Sure. So I've been shooting for about 20 years now, or just over 20 years, and I'm primarily a wedding and portrait photographer, although in my community, because I've been going for so long, I pick up a lot of, or quite a bit of commercial work as well, but it's primarily weddings and portraits. And yeah, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I started Photo Biz X. There wasn't something like that. And I thought I would love to be learning via podcasts. So I started interviewing photographers, and it blew me away at what people were happy to share about their business and how revealing they were in regard to their marketing and their strategies. And yeah, so I'm up to episode 250 something, and yeah, just loving it. I'm still loving doing that as much as anything. So I'm shooting a little bit less these days. And we tend to book our associate photographers first before me, but I'm still picking up the ones that I really want to shoot. And my associates always accuse me of picking the best weddings for myself, so I always get accused of that. But look, I still love shooting as much as the day I started, and just not doing as much as what I was. And a lot of the focus is on the podcast and helping other photographers.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you.
Excellent. So through your experience, with your own personal experience in photography, and also talking to other people, can you just share with us a little bit about maybe some of your biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your own business and how you overcame them?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I struggled with more in the middle of my career as a photographer was staying in love with photography. I got so focused on the work side of things, and I don't know if it was easier when I was going through that stage, because the wedding, I mean, we were doing 60, 70 weddings a year, and I was shooting most of those myself.
Wow.
And photography became a real job, and there was not enough photos of my own kids and my own family. Every time I picked up the camera, it was purely for work. I just didn't want to know about it, and that was a real struggle. And yeah, once I got past that, and I think it was the podcast and talking to other photographers and staying inspired or getting inspired by them, that brought that love of photography back. And I think things really turned around again for my business once I fell back in love with photography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing. I think a lot of photographers are accidental entrepreneurs, where they originally they had the passion first. They had the camera in their hand. They got really excited. Then somebody told them, "Wow, you should photograph our family," or something happens, and then it shifts into like, "Oh, I can make money with this." And then it's interesting because I almost feel like we all go through this photographer journey that there's a certain point, because I know we've lived through it as well. It's similar. It sounds similar to your story, where we were doing over 50 weddings a year, and that's when we were talking earlier on. That's when we brought in the associates, because we had all these leads we were saying no to, and it was like throwing money out the door. But it was like taking all of our weekends, and then all of a sudden it became, so focused on the work and the monetizing side that we weren't actually like enjoying it as much. Mm-hmm. And just saying, it's nice to see that you've come full circle, because we've had to be very purposeful, even ourselves, to kind of find like that why and that purpose to come back to, like what gets us excited, and we had to do that with individual clients at a certain point. Like, okay, we need to like, because we want to go in and like rock it out, type thing, and not feel, because I was on burnout. When Melissa came in our business, I was like on that edge of burnout, and I'm not sure if you experienced that as well.
Yeah, maybe not the burnout so much. I think I love my business. I fell in love with the business side of things more so than the photography, and that's what I really love that part of it, and sort of getting to I won't say the top, up in the upper reaches in my local area of photographers, and the bookings were coming so easy, and I was loving that, and the photography part of it felt like the job. But yeah, I guess I guess it was a kind of a burnout because I just wasn't looking forward to shooting other than for work, and that was it.
Right. Makes sense.
I'm curious about some of the challenges you might have had with the associates, because that's a whole other animal. And we know that there's a lot of people that are listening right now that are considering having another team. And what was that like for you with that transition and challenges with that?
Yeah, look, I think I was super lucky, and I think a lot of people you interview will say the same thing. There's always going to be challenges. Corey is our main associate photographer for weddings, and it was at a time when he had a great business, and he's an amazing photographer, and he just didn't like the business side of things at all. He didn't like post-production. He didn't want to deal with clients afterwards. He didn't want to do album designs. So I said, look, why don't you come and shoot for me, and you can just shoot and hand over the cards. So that was a dream come true for both of us. And what I've done, and I don't know if a lot of people would like the way I've done this, but I refuse to teach the photographer the business side of things, and I don't teach the admin staff, our studio staff, to do the photography. So I keep those two roles totally separate. And I mean, yeah, the aim is to stop the other photographers going out and starting their own business in competition with me. That's the primary reason. Corey never wanted to do that, but I don't want to do that with other photographers either, because I have been burnt in the past by showing other photographers too much. You just give too much away, and then next thing I taught one other photographer, and his photos were popping up, and my clients thought they were my photos. And even my family did. I was like, wow, that was a lesson learned.
we learned that hard lesson ourselves.
Yes.
about 3 years ago, so I can appreciate what you go through.
Yeah.
So can you share with us maybe one of the best marketing strategies you've used for your business, and maybe if you have another secret nugget in there of something you heard along the way, a marketing strategy, because that's what people definitely always want to know.
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, without a doubt, Facebook ads has just changed the landscape for photographers. I know a lot of people are using them these days. But that's when I got first introduced to them by a photography business coach in Australia, Bernie Griffiths. And he came onto the podcast, shared a strategy, and basically put a challenge to me and my listeners. And I booked over 20 portrait sessions following that one podcast episode. And then I ran the ad again. We modified and refined things with my listeners. And I ran an ad for engaged couples. I photographed 7 engagement sessions. I booked 6 weddings off the back of that one ad. The ad spend was under $30, 30 Australian, so it's probably like $15 US. So that's something ridiculous. But so the ads have just changed things for us. And I've got there's so many examples of so many success stories with Facebook ads. I think that's the biggest thing.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah, we definitely, social media has changed the game, I think, for a lot of people. And is there just a little nugget within the Facebook ads? Because there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of people that are doing it wrong. Because we have what we call the $11 day ad, where we know for every $150 that we spend, we get a $6,000-7,000 wedding client. So for us, it's a very, very targeted, but it took time to do testing to get it to that point.
Sure.
So, but it's rock solid now because it speaks to the client that we're going for. But is there anything in that little methodology that you did learn that you're allowed to reveal right now? Or
absolutely.
Or what's the episode? Number?
Well, I've got a cheat sheet anyway for listeners. So if the listener or the viewer wants to go to photobizx.com/cheat, it explains everything there, and I'll link to some of the episodes. But look, basically, the way that Bernie taught us, and then what we've worked with, is we're shooting a free session. So let's say in regard to weddings, I'll shoot a free engagement session and I'll deliver a fantastic experience there as best I can, and the couple has a great time. And really, and we make sales off that shoot just like we normally do, but the booking usually happens organically. There's no hard sell. And I guess the secret to getting the couples to respond to that ad is the ad copy more than anything else. It's not so much in the way we set up the ads, although we've worked that out, but it's having an offer and then having a hook. So we have a limited amount of shoots to give away. We have a timeline, so a deadline that they have to respond by. And we have a really good reason for giving away these sessions. So it's all above board. We're being 100% truthful. There's no trickery to it. Right. We let people know right away that they have the option to buy more photos after the session, even though they don't have to. There's no hard sell tactics or techniques. And what we do is, with an engaged couple, we'll take them to a questionnaire to pre-qualify them. And in that questionnaire, I'll find out whether they have a wedding photographer booked, because if they do, they're not going to be chosen for the free session. Right. And, we can ask things like their budget and where they're getting married, what date, to make sure that I'm free as well. And obviously, if they tick all the right boxes, I'll be contacting them for a follow-up call, and then we'll book in an engagement session. And from there, that's a pre-qualified, perfect prospective client for me. And at the very least, I'm looking for a sale from that engagement session. And the best outcome is a wedding booking. And that, like I said, from 7 sessions that first time to 6 bookings. And the only one that didn't book, they had actually booked another photographer in between the shoot and actually coming back to see their photos. So it's not real. There's no trickery to it, but if you follow the steps, it just works every single time. It blows me away. It still does.
Right.
That's great. That's incredible.
Yeah, definitely those elements, because we know a lot about marketing. So urgency and scarcity are 2 huge trigger points there. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll geek out on that.
He loves Facebook geeking out. So for a photographer that's just starting out in their business, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because this is a question that I get asked, because I have been shooting for so long. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I made, or the advice that I would give, is to learn as much about business as you can, because the photography tends to take care of itself. I mean, everyone in the beginning loves photography. That's why we want to become photographers. And I think a lot of newer photographers to business keep focusing too much on that, whereas that tends to happen naturally because people are excited about becoming a better photographer. If you don't know what you don't know about business, then you are missing out on a ton of money. I remember in the early days for me, I was booking a 20-sided album with my packages, and I photographed, the very first time I did this, I photographed a wealthy couple, and I had an amazing portfolio of images from this wedding, and they wanted to buy more photos, and I tried to squash everything into a 20-sided album. I didn't know I could upsell afterwards. Yeah. And, I hate to think of how much I missed out on. They would have spent thousands more if I had have known that was even an option. I didn't know that I could do that. So when I went to a seminar, I was actually with Jerry Gahonis 6 months after that. I learned that, hey, you can sell after the wedding. Our average sales went up by thousands. So it's not uncommon for us to do $2,000 and $3,000 upsells after every single wedding. And that's why I refuse. And we almost went broke when we took wedding albums out of our packages. So now they're included in every single package every time. And we explain very clearly to the couple what's going to happen after the shoot, after the wedding day. And we prepare them to buy more pages or add more sides to their album afterwards. And it happens 90% of the time. They will add sides to their album. So I think learn as much as you can about the business side of things. That's the takeaway.
Yeah. We love that, because exactly with what you said, when you have the average, per client go up, you don't actually have to attract more clients. Because you can actually make more money by working less if you do it smarter. So it's great to see, that's the path that you took, and that's what you've learned and what you teach as well. Because I think so many people out there are so focused on the next person. And we all have to do that because, people are coming through. You're not going to get married 5 times, at least you don't think they're going to, So, but the value of that client can increase greatly. Something I learned a long time ago is that if your client didn't say no, that means you haven't asked for the next sale yet. So you lost an opportunity because you never hit a dead end. So you stopped yourself from a sale because you didn't ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people leave money on the table that they don't even realize? Like that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a fun question for you now. If you had to relocate to a new area today with no clients and nobody knew who you were, and you only had $1,000 in your business bank account, what would be the first thing you would do to promote your business with that $1,000?
All right, cool. I'll definitely do Facebook ads. So we don't need to go into that again if you don't want to, but that would be my first thing.
Yeah.
And I book in free sessions and start building a portfolio, making contacts and booking or making sales from those shoots. So that'd be the very first thing. I think I'd have heaps left over out of that $1,000 to do other stuff. Another thing I would do, I would interview local vendors. So is your audience all wedding photographers or portrait too?
Both portrait,
okay.
commercial.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so I would go and shoot whoever is going to be influencing or having an influence on my target prospective client, and I would make them the hero. And there's not many people doing this, and it works so well. You know, I went out and interviewed a bunch of my local vendors, and I got known to them straight away. I featured them on my blog. They linked to my blog. Next thing, I was ranking on the first page of Google for my local area florist, my local area wedding cars, my local area celebrant. I was like, wow, this is insane. Because all these backlinks were pointing back to their own interviews. So yeah, and then also if you upload to YouTube, it's so much easier to rank on the first page of Google if you have YouTube videos. So I'd be utilizing those interviews. I'll be recording YouTube videos on location and running Facebook ads.
So you're recording the videos of the vendors and kind of interviewing them as well. Is that what you're saying with connections? Yeah,
so I would go in there as a client. So because when you first suggest to a vendor that you want to interview them, they always get scared. Like, what are you going to ask me? And I said, I'm just going to be exactly like one of your clients. So, if I'm going to go and interview a makeup artist, I want to know, should I use spray tan? What color spray tan? How early do I need to book you? How much is it going to cost? Is there a different price for my bridesmaids? How early do I need to be getting ready, or do you need to arrive? Anything that a normal client would ask them, I would ask. So it was super easy for them. It came natural to me because I get the same questions anyway from every client. And next thing I took a few photos and I had a YouTube video, a blog post, a podcast in the end, and great SEO.
That's
incredible.
That's fantastic.
That's huge value bomb there.
Yeah,
I hope everybody got that.
Everyone should do that because, seriously, if you make the vendors the hero, they're just going to do nothing but sing your praises and share that blog, share that video. They're going to, share you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was really surprised at was, we all, as photographers, if you're a wedding photographer, you want to get in with the reception venues. And they were happy for me to interview multiple venues because they all had their own unique selling point or proposition that made them special. And so I was surprised. I thought I could only interview one of each, but the doors just opened. If you ask to feature someone, they are more than happy to oblige.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
So is there something that you do on a daily basis or a success ritual that you have that you think contributes to your success?
Well, this one's not business related, but I always... I make time for what I want to do in the diary. So, I love riding and racing my bike. I love traveling. And so I will make sure that those things go in the diary first. So if I'm want to ride my bike 5 days a week, which I do, those days or those times are in the diary. So Linda, my wife, and Tennille, a studio assistant, they know that they don't book things over those ride sessions or those race days because that's what makes me happy. Yeah. And if I'm fit and healthy and happy, then I'm happy to come to work.
Yeah.
Good. It is a balance though. So if when one isn't doing well, it impacts the other side.
Absolutely. So
that's great. You take priority in that because I think a lot of people forget their why and their purpose along the pursuit, and then the actually going after the goal on the business side ends up sacrificing the original purpose, like why we're doing all of this. So it's great that you prioritize that.
Yeah. Love it.
I agree. I just quickly, I did a trip to India this year. Just the end of last year with 7 other photographers. It was one of the best things I ever did for my photography. And so if anyone gets a chance to do something like that, if you're watching this or listening and you think photography is my only passion, then go to a third world country and go and shoot with a bunch of photographers, not for money, but for fun and for yourself. And it will make a change and a difference to your life.
Love that.
That's
I love
amazing.
that. I love that.
Great.
So is there a business resource or a tool that you use that you can't live without?
Oh, absolutely, Photo Biz X. I think before the podcast, the only thing I can really think of, did you say online or anywhere?
Anywhere. Anywhere.
I think that the AIPP, which is the Australian Institute of Professional Photographers, and I think you have the WPPI or APP, I think different things in America, you know, there's associations all over the world. But I think getting in to an association like that, especially early on in your career, you get to meet and you get to mingle and talk with and be influenced by the people in the upper echelon of the industry. And you go to the award days and you see what these guys and these girls are putting out there. When I first went to my first awards competition, I was blown away. I didn't even know you could do that with photography. And that just opens so many doors. You know, then I started going to seminars and workshops and learning about business. So yeah, get involved with other photographers. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And last but not least, what are you working on now and how can people get in touch with you?
So working hard on the podcast and bringing new guests to the show. We're about to launch an online sales course, which is totally against what so many other people are teaching in regards to in-person sales. So that's coming out very, very soon. I found with my listeners that not everyone can do in-person sales. It just doesn't fit everyone's lifestyles. A lot of photographers that I have listened to the podcast have full-time jobs. They don't have time or they don't want to do sales in person, but they still want to shoot for money. So I think online sales still has a place out there and I think it can still be super profitable. So that's coming out soon. And as far as a resource for viewers and listeners now, if you want to learn more about the Facebook ads, is that cheat sheet available. That'll step you through those steps that I talked about. It'll show you how to set up your ad as well. It's all laid out. It's super easy to follow. They can find that, or you can find that at photobizx.com/cheat. That's CHEAT.
Excellent. That's great.
Well, this was awesome. This was filled with so many knowledge bombs, and everyone that's listening and watching needs to rewatch and listen because I got a lot out of this interview today. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking with us and talking with us across the world because we had to coordinate the times, and I think it's so awesome that technology is like the coolest thing. So
it is.
It's not too often you get the opportunity to interview the interviewer.
Yes.
Well, when we started, I said I was going to be a lot more comfortable being on your side of the microphone, but it was you guys made it super easy. You guys are pros, so thank you so much.
Oh,
excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andrew.
Thanks for joining.